Hawken was one of the OG free-to-play games for the PS4. The mech genre being an undeveloped genre, I was excited to play this game, and I would have if I wasn't busy playing Destiny at the time. Well, here we are 2 years later. How does the game hold up after being out for so long? Let's find out. Hawken is a third-person mech shooting game developed by Adhesive Games and like 4 other studios, so we're not going to worry about them. You hop in these monstrous creatures to fight in arena-style combat and team deathmatch, free-for-all, in the squads of 2. There isn't much to say about the music or graphics. After playing all night, there was no noticeable soundtrack that I could find. Most of the sounds come from the mechs themselves and the sound of bullets being fired. Moving around, you can really hear how heavy these machines are. Now onto the graphics. I'm not gonna lie, this game looks old. Between its muddy colors and the lower end graphics, it's not a pretty game. Even the textures look a bit on the lower side. It's not distracting by any means. Playing the game, you certainly won't be trying to count the polygons. Or you shouldn't, because you'll be disappointed. I have a love-hate relationship with this game. Just starting the game, you're immediately thrown into what I can only assume is a tutorial. It takes a long time explaining the game and doesn't even tell you everything, so don't feel bad if you feel lost. As a mech, you need to manage your guns, secondary weapons, overheating, gas, and a few other things in the middle of a fight. They don't even tell you how to jump, which will surely handicap you. Well, if you were to make it past the tutorial and learn the controls, what awaits you? Pretty decent game. The game is pretty scarce on features and explanations once you make it past the tutorial, being entirely made up of the 3 game modes I mentioned earlier. While not telling you this, you progress in the game by unlocking more mechs and more parts to customize them with. But the only way to get a mech is to use the previous mech in this progression path. With a bit of effort, I probably could have learned the progression path, but at this point I just wanted to jump into the game. Similar to the other games in this genre, you can customize your mechs by changing its color or firepower by swapping the weapons. This feature could add some depth to the game if you took the time to learn it and how each equipment would affect your mech, as it won't explain it to you, go figure. So let's say you're like me and you say screw it, I don't have time for any of that, let's just jump into the game. This is where the love-hate relationship starts, and none of that other confusing mess has anything to do with it. This game is slow, clunky, and the combat isn't that fluid. Sometimes switching between different mechanics may cause one of them to never come out. Moving around, while I say you can feel the weight of each machine, it's not a very smooth movement. Trying to escape a fight or traverse the arena-style maps, you can definitely feel how old the game is. And after winning my first few games, I unlocked my first mech, which is a more heavy mech with higher firepower, but it's less mobile compared to the one you start with. Problems soon arose when I was told by a few players that it would be a long time until I unlocked the 3rd mech, without paying of course. So for some long stretch of time, you'll be locked between the 2 playable mechs. This game has a small list of players in game, the max being 12 players, 6 per team. Maybe due to the time in which I played the game or just how long the game's been out, I never managed to get a full 12 player game. And that's where the hate ends and the love part of the relationship starts. If you can look past all of that, and I mean all of that, if you could just get over that, if you can ignore the bad tutorials and unexplained mechanics, the slow clunky feel and the turtle paced progression, then there is some fun to have with this game. Once I adapted to the controls and feel of the game and pushed any idea of playing more than 2 mechs into outer space, I did start to have fun. The combat is more slowed down when compared to the faster AAA shooting games. Each of the 2 mechs have their own special ability and feel to them. Yes, they're a bit more than management game, but all of this can add a strategic element to the fights, like knowing when to heal your mech and when to keep fighting, or perfectly placing your shield to protect you and your allies. This isn't your trigger-happy shooting game. You're rewarded less for your godlike Call of Duty reflexes, and more so for decision making and teamwork. That's not to say I didn't play the game Lone style, destroying all the other players, but when faced against a better team, I got utterly decimated. They made me look like a noob who only had 2 mechs and no parts for customization. I started to enjoy a slower approach to the genre and heavy tanky feel. The game became less about how good I was as a player, but how smart I was, and the smarter team will always win. If you want to play this game, then let go of all of those primitive concepts like progression and reasonably explained features. That's not to say that ignoring all of that makes this game a 10 out of 10, but you can definitely hop in for 10 minutes and be the Gundam you always wanted to be.